As we're moving into spring and summer, I thought it would be a good time to do an updated potatoes and onion video to teach you what to buy during the summertime. If you're just meeting me, my name is Amy Cross, and this is the Cross Legacy, where I teach you how to save money on groceries. Our grocery budget is $135 per person, and there's only 2 of us living here at the house, so our grocery budget is $270 per month. A lot of the things that I know how to do are because I was raised on a farm and I know what produce harvest seasons are. So some things as simple as changing up the seasons and what items you're buying will help you save a lot of money. Now, we live in a really small rural town, and I like to go to a farm stand when they're open and in season. So right towards the end of fall season, I was able to get a 50-pound bag of potatoes and a 50-pound box of onions. And 50 pounds might seem like a ton of produce for a small family like us, but this is all the onions I have left. We are down to 7 onions that have been in my house since September, and now we're in the middle of March. These onions are also still totally fresh. They're not crinkly when you go to grab them. You know they're not dehydrated, and they're not sprouting. That's because I bought them right as they were getting picked and then going into storage. So instead of that box going into storage at a grocery warehouse, it's just been in my pantry. Most onions are picked in late summer or early fall, and then they're in cold storage for the rest of the year. And this is the same thing with items like apples. Just because you're getting them from the grocery store doesn't mean that they were just picked off of the tree. They have been in cold storage since September. So onions is one of the items that I do not wash when I bring it home, and I try to store them in a wire basket or a wooden crate that has some airflow in it. And at the bottom of the crate, I normally keep either a piece of cardboard box or some newsprint back when we had it. We're laughing about this, but I can't even remember the last time I held a physical newspaper. So up until this year and moving into this house, our pantry has always been just another room in our house that is the same temperature of the inside of our house. We just moved into a new house that's actually 80 years old, and we have a basement pantry now. That does stay a little bit cooler, but normally our pantry used to be 70 degrees. As you start to pick up the onions and you can hear them being a little bit more crinkly, meaning that they're getting dehydrated, those are the onions that you want to use first when you bring them home. So when I'm checking in the basket to see which one I should grab next, I'm always touching a bunch of them to see if any of them are starting to make that crinkle sound. This is another reason why I normally don't buy bags of onions at the grocery store. I rather bag up my own onions and be able to check the ones and see how fresh they are. Only in harvest time do I buy them in the actual bags or boxes at a time. We normally go through at least 5 onions a month here, so I normally try to keep around 10 when I go grocery shopping. So now that we're down to 7 and we'll be thinking about our April grocery shopping haul, I'll probably start for the next couple months getting 10 each grocery shopping haul, which is only once a month. As I chop an onion, I always chop the entire thing and then I store it in a glass jar with a metal lid in the refrigerator. This is a great way to test to know that your lid is completely airtight because your onions will not smell up your fridge. And if you do find that you have an overabundance of onions, you can also freeze them. Again, I would make sure that the container is completely airtight or your freezer will smell like onions. I do save my onion skins all year long to make sure that I have them to make my chicken stock. That is what makes it the rich golden color. Okay, the next kind of onion I want to talk about is some green onions. These look kind of sad because we had a party here the other day and they got bumped around, but I need to cut these off and I'm going to be using the greens for some chimichurri sauce. But I just wanted to talk about this a little bit. These are almost 2 months old right now, and because it's spring, they are growing like crazy. I can cut these all the way back to the white here, and they will continue to grow all spring and summer. And you can see how crazy the roots are getting in this jar. These you can also trim to about 1/4 inch and just keep a little bit of the roots, and then they will continue to regrow and keep it fresh. I make sure to always use filtered water in this, and that way there's no chlorine that will end up killing the plants. So if you use filtered water or any water that you're comfortable drinking, that's what you would put into this. So these look a little sad and crazy, but again, these are almost 2 months old, and see how much it has grown. Red onions and shallots don't store as long as other types of onions that are made for storage. So I only buy whatever I need for the month for red onions and shallots, and I can normally keep them fresh for at least a month. The most important thing about storing any onions and potatoes is that you don't store them near each other. So try to separate it out at least 3 feet. And then when you're storing potatoes, also store them in a wire basket or something that has some airflow. And then I normally cover those up with a pillowcase to block any light. Let's move to garlic. These garlic I actually bought back in September when they were newly harvested. So when you're getting garlic, know that they're normally planted in October and they're normally harvested around the middle of July. So when I was looking at that tag of the garlic, I was making sure it was fresh from September 2025 harvest, and that tag didn't say it was from the previous year. So this time of year, I kind of slow down trying to use up the last of my garlic that I have. I save these mostly for making stock or other things that I'm roasting, and then I kind of switch over to using more garlic powder as we get closer to July, and then you start seeing the new garlic being harvested. And if you are at the store or the farmer's market and you see garlic scapes, which is the green part of the garlic that's growing like the green onions, those are so delicious to make pesto out of. So those normally go into season as we're going into May and early June. I kept these purposely to be able to show you that it is the middle of March and potatoes need to be planted right about this time. For over the last 20 years, we have grown our own potatoes, and normally in the Seattle area where we used to live, you would plant those around St. Patrick's Day, mid-March. So depending on when your freeze zones are, you might do that between either St. Patrick's Day or the middle of April. And if you're interested in learning how to grow your own potatoes and make potato boxes, we have a video for that. So these were Yukon potatoes way back, and I had made sure that I used up the rest of those potatoes. I made some extra mashed potatoes that I put in the freezer before we were starting to see them sprout, and that way I can pull those mashed potatoes out at any time. So russets and Yukon potatoes are more of a fall crop or late summer crop. So right now, if you're getting them from the grocery store and still want to have a baked potato, just get what you need for right now and not thinking about it storing for a really long time. So you can still normally get them to store at your house for over a month. As we're going into spring and early summer, that is when I normally get the smaller round potatoes that are red, or the Yukon potatoes that have the thinner skins. Those are spring potatoes, and they will last longer and get you all the way through the summertime. And normally in the spring and summertime is when I'm getting a little bit more sweet potatoes. If I am wanting potatoes, these eye a little bit slower than the russet and the Yukon potatoes, and it's just nice to be able to see the transition through the seasons. And I love that we can grab a random grocery haul picture, and I'll show it here on the screen, and I can tell exactly when I went grocery shopping by the produce items I have. In this picture, there is potatoes, there's sweet potatoes, and there's also corn on the cob. So I know I ended up getting this in the summertime. There's some nectarines, and then the big key here is there's some cherries. So not only was it summertime, I know that that happened early in the summer during cherry season. So when you're really seeing how you're mixing up your produce throughout the year, you get excited about the new produce items, and you can still have some of the favorite things that you want, but it just might be a different variety. All my tips for buying and storing produce is in the Zero Waste Produce Guide. This goes through 75 produce items A to Z and how I'm able to keep them all fresh for weeks. I keep track of all of the groceries that I buy, what's in my pantry, and the meals that I'm making in my grocery planner. And I love that I've been doing this for over 10 years now, so I can go back through the different journals between spring and summer and see what new meals that I used to make that my kids were really happy about, and I can bring those back into the rotation. Make sure that you check out the link in the description, and it also has a discount code. We have hundreds of videos here on the channel to help teach you how to save money on groceries. And no matter how old the video is that you're watching, know that I answer every single question I see come in every day. So I get a notification for that, and it doesn't matter if it's an old video or a new video, I am happy to answer. And if you're new here, make sure you hit subscribe, and welcome.